Okay, so here we will begin our first lesson on GED Science, and of course it begins on page 495 about the test. So if you have your book, the Kaplan GED Test 2017, the 2018 and 19 is aligned the same in terms of the page number, so you can use either. If you're using the 2015 or 16, it's off by 10 pages, I believe. So if we're on page 20, you'll probably be on page 10. But we're using, for this tutorial, GED Test 2017. If you open up to page 495, we'll begin. About the test. The GED Science Test evaluates your ability to understand, interpret, and apply science information. You will have 90 minutes to answer 34 questions that are based on reading passages, graphics such as diagrams, tables, graphs, and maps, or a combination of the two. You will need a minimum score of, your book says 150, but right now the GED test is 145 to pass the science test, which is one of the 4 tests you will need to pass in order to earn a high school equivalent diploma. So here, what we're doing is we're providing a tutorial service for students who are using this particular book. So if you want our help, you need this particular book, the GED Kaplan book 2017. We do not have a partnership with Kaplan. There's no intention of copyright violation or anything like that. All we're doing is we're providing a step-by-step tutorial. So we will explain some of the processes. We will share with you the writing processes. Some of the things that we will share with you in terms of our tutorial may or may not be in the book. But we try to go by the lessons in the book, and then we add to that by explaining these processes that you need to know from this book. Now, let's look at the next paragraph on page 495. It says content areas. So it's telling you here where you need to focus your studies and the content of the test. What areas will be presented on the test. So you have a life science area, it says here, which is about 40%. And it tells you exactly what's included there. You need to read that. For the sake of time for our tutorial, we'll save some of this. Then there's a Earth and Space Science portion that you need to know. That will make up 20% of the test. You should read that paragraph, and it tells you what is included in the Earth and Space Science. And then there's a physical science portion that you need to know. It's 40% of the test. Make sure you read this particular paragraph and know the topics that will be included on the test. So, next paragraph, science practice. And it reads, in addition to testing your understanding of science passages and graphics, science test questions are based on your understanding of skills that are used in scientific study and investigation. These skills are called science practices, and they introduce this unit on pages 500 to 517. Now, we do have a chart that sets up the scientific method with the thesis and things like that. So we're going to probably take a picture of it, and then I'll integrated into the video, so you can see that, because that's a part of the lesson in the book when we get there. So there's a number of things that may not be in the book that we're going to share with you, so you will be prepared to take and pass the test. My experience has been that students should start with this test, and it seems to be one of the easier of the four. Maybe for one reason is that it's less content. This test it extends from page 495 to 500. Let's turn to page 500, and I'm pretty sure it's 67. Well, let's try to see. Yes. So 495 to 567. And what I always tell students to do, I say, okay, take that 567 minus 495 and put it in your calculator and tell me what's the difference. Well, of course, when you subtract that, the answer is 72. Why are we doing that? Because I want you to know how much you have to get through to prepare yourself for the test. Now, when I first started doing this, I told students we can probably do it in about 2 weeks. Actually, I've had students actually go through it in a week without tutorial and actually take and pass the test. So as we're going through these tutorial, these videos, we're giving you proof positive examples and information that we know work based on the history and experiences of previous students. They've used the same information that we're giving you, and they've gone and passed the test. So let's look back in the book on page 495. Comprehension scientific presentations. You will have to be able to interpret passages and graphics. Now, before I forget, let me mention this. As of today, this is July 21st, 2019, that this video is being made. And I'm saying it this way because things change back and forth depending on the GED committee, what their requirements are. But right now, there's no requirement for writing on the science test. They did away with it, as they did with the one for the social studies. So that before, you had a writing requirement on there, and you do not have to do the writing essay. However, I may include those examples and give you a writing practice sample so you can see how to do it in case you need it. Okay? So you will have to understand also on page 495 the use of the scientific method, which I told you we have a chart for that, and I'll go over that. How to design investigations, reason from data, and work with the findings. And then you need to know reason with scientific information, evaluate conclusions with evidence, and at the bottom of page 495, last two competencies you need to know: apply concepts and formulas to express scientific information and apply scientific theories. Use probabilities and statistics in a science context. Okay, turn over to page 496, please. Now, so what they do here is they give you samples of the type of questions that you'll see. Now, you also need to know that the science GED test is computerized. It's all computer-based, all the tests. And so here on page 496, they're showing you sample type questions that you will see. They're showing you the type of format these questions may appear on the test. The students ask me all the time, what will the test be like? Is it going to be this and that? And one of the other things I have to mention to you, and as we go through the tutorial, it'll be there in the book and we'll share it with you, but I may as well mention it now. there is some math on the test, and we're going to cover that and get you prepared for that as well. So students ask me all the time, is there any math on the science test? It is. But we're going to prepare you to be able to handle those questions and pass your GED science test. Okay, so if you look at the bottom now of page 497, it mentions 2 short answer items require you to type in a text box with editing tools to write a summary. Well, I have 2 samples that I may integrate into this video as we get to that point. So it'll be a number of videos we'll do here to complete the entire science tutorial. But I do have 2 samples that I use in my class all the time with my adult students. And they are ready and prepared to take the test. But the writing requirement has been deleted from the test. You no longer have to do the writing requirement on the science test as of this date. Now, what will happen in the future, I don't know. Now, let's turn to page 498. And you see here math problems on the science test. And here they're showing you some sample questions that you may encounter on the science test. And this one particular one here, they're asking you about temperature and what was the approximate temperature in degrees Celsius at noon on July 15th. And if you look at this sample question, they show you from April all the way to August what the temperature in Fahrenheit is, right? But they don't want to know that Fahrenheit temperature. They want to know temperature in degrees Celsius at noon when? On July 15. Okay? And so look, they show you a formula there. C, Celsius, is equal to 5/9 times Fahrenheit minus 32. So you're going to plug that in and then do the problem. So if you look down below at your answer choices, A, B, C, D, and then below that, it shows you the solution. Write out the equation, substitute 88.2 for Fahrenheit in the equation. Why? Because the Fahrenheit temperature on July 15, the one that we're interested in, was 88.2. Look back at the chart. July 15, the temperature. So you're going to substitute that temperature. And formulas, I like them because it's easier for students to do those type of problems, because if you just follow the format of the formula and replace it with the values that you need, you're able to work that problem out. Look at step 3. Use the calculator to find the answer. And you see what they did. C equals 5/9 times whatever is in that bracket, right? So 88.2 minus what? 32. And if we do 5/9 times the difference of that, your answer is 31.2. So now you notice here on page 498, they show you the answer 31.2. But there's a step in between there that they didn't show you. The difference between the 88.2 and the 32. So here's what we would do. Let's pull up the calculator on the computer so you can see it. We would go 88.2 minus 32. And that equals 56.2. See, people may have gotten confused when they see that 31.2. There was a step in between that you had to do. So all we did was, it says C equals 5/9 time whatever the calculation is inside those brackets. So you got to calculate what's in those brackets first, right? And we know once you go 88.2 minus 32, it's 56.2. So 56.2 has to be multiplied times 5 divided by 9. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Times 5 divided by 9. And that equals, there's the same answer they have in the book, 31.2. So that's why we're doing these tutorials, because you may ask, okay, I see the 31.2, but where did it come from? Well, we just showed you. Okay, so here, the only calculator you can use is the TI-30XS multi-view calculator. And it's a Texas Instrument brand calculator. You need to get that calculator. And I always suggest to students, get the calculator instead of using your calculator on your phone or your computer, because this TI-30XS multi-view is the only one you can use at the testing center. Usually they'll let you either bring your own, that exact calculator, or they'll provide one physically for you, or they will provide that same calculator in a digital format on the computer. Okay? Now, look on page 499 again. They're just showing you some sample type questions that may appear on the test. Short answer questions on the science test, which I've already told you, they don't have that anymore. They've done away with the writing portion. Okay? Okay, so we're going to stop here for this particular lesson, because I like to record these by the lessons in the book and go through the tutorial with you per lesson. So we'll stop here for this particular video about the test. One other thing before I end this video that I want to mention. I told you to count the number of pages that you need to study for science, and we know it's 72. What I usually tell students to do to engage this big old thick book is to break it into smaller parts. Since there are 72 pages of information that I need to get through and learn and study, I suggest you do 10 pages a day or more. And if you're doing at least 10 pages a day, there's only a total of 72. Within 7 days, you've already completed what you need to study and know for the science test. And if you don't have it quite down yet, you don't understand everything, that's okay. Do another round of 10 pages a day. So now that's your second time going through that information. And if you still don't have it, do it again. This is the test that I have most success with. Although, and I'm saying first time success, because we've had quite a bit of students passing the entire GED test. But this particular one here, most students pass it on the first day. The first take that they go, they pass this one. And I've had a student say, hey, you know what we studied in class? That's exactly what's on the test. I said, okay, so that's what we're going to use. And usually what I'll have students do, once they take and pass the test in my adult class, I'll ask them to come back and, if they don't mind, share with the class what they did to prepare for the test. And it really helps, so they can hear it from another student. So I guess you have figured out that I am not just giving you a tutorial, but I am an adult teacher. We do the adult education classes for computers, ESL, and the GED, among other things. I'm also a certified teacher in the state of Texas, but I work with adult ed right now, and I really enjoy it. So what we're doing in our classroom, you're benefiting from that experience, my knowledge, right here in the form of a video, which is good because you can rewind whatever I'm saying in that classroom. Now you get to rewind it as many times as you need to. Okay? Okay, so here we'll stop this particular video. about the test.